members of the International Scientific Commission interrogate Floyd Breland O'Neill, Second Lieutenant, United States Air Force Reserve.
My name is Floyd Breland O'Neill. I'm Second Lieutenant, United States Air Force Reserve, serial number AO184H575. My home address is Box 66, Moy Avenue, Fairfax, South Carolina. The instructions which I have received in regard to bacteriological warfare consisted of 2 lectures. One lecture was given at Luke Air Force Base, which is in the United States, at Phoenix, Arizona, on December the 1st, 1951. This was a short lecture lasting only 30 minutes. The second lecture was given at K-46, the advanced base of the 18th Fighter Bomber Group in Korea here. This lecture was given on the 22nd of January, 1952. This lecture was much more complete on the bacteriological weapons which we would be using. This lecture lasted for approximately 2 hours. Then the only other instruction I received, of course, was the order to carry out my germ warfare mission.
What did you feel like? What was the state of mind when you carried out this germ warfare mission?
Frankly, I think, the most nervous I've ever been in my life. I also felt like it was rather a funeral rather than a usual mission. It's difficult to describe one's feelings in these cases, although I never wanted to participate in bacteriological warfare. I guess you might say I was coward enough to go ahead and do as I was told. These thoughts were certainly in my mind. They were in the back of my mind, let's say. I tried to force the thought down. It's like swallowing a very bitter pill. I tried as much as I could not to think about it.
Would you describe the reaction of your comrades when they knew that the United States forces were waging bacteriological warfare?
Well, sir, I can only describe the feelings which I observed in the fellow pilots who attended the second lecture, the other 3 pilots, because those are the ones whom I observed the reaction in immediately after we found out that the U.S. forces were using germ warfare in Korea. Among those men and myself, I think the main thing was a sense of horror, of abhorrence. Certainly there was a great element of surprise in it. It was, as I said before, I felt that I was well on my way to somebody else's funeral. We had been told that we were not to discuss this even among ourselves, and coming out from the lecture, coming out from having just been told this, no one said anything. The 4 of us were in what you might call stunned silence. I know I was wondering myself why on earth we were using this terrible weapon in Korea even while the peace talks were going on at Kaesong, when the war was practically stopped. It's very difficult to say how the others felt. I could only judge from their looks and their actions.
O'Neill makes a final statement before the members of the commission.
When I think of my future, when I think of someday, though I'm not married yet, I intend to be, when my son asked me what I did in Korea, how can I tell him that I came over here and dropped germ bombs on people, destroying them, bringing death and destruction? How can I go back and face my family in a civilized world? How can I tell them these things, that I am a criminal in the eyes of humanity? They are my flesh and blood. It's the most difficult thing to really give a man's feelings are vocal expression. I can't try. I can only tell you somewhat of how I feel.
The members of the commission interrogate Paul R. Niss, First Lieutenant, United States Air Force Reserve.
My name, as you all know, is Paul R. Niss, and as recently I was a First Lieutenant in the United States Air Force Reserve, serial number A01909070. I entered the Air Force in 1946 as a corporal, graduated from pilot training in 1949, 1st July. After that, I was an instructor and instructed at Craig Air Force Base, that is at Selma, Alabama, until the 30th of January 1952 when I was ordered to Korea. I reported to Camp Stoneman, California, that's just outside of San Francisco, 21st of February this same year, 1952. From there, I received my assignment overseas and my transportation overseas. I arrived at K-46, that's a code name for our air base. It's at Wonju, the 20th of March, 1952. It's a F-51 base with the 18th Fighter Bomber Group there. I was assigned to the 12th Squadron, 12th Fighter Bomber Squadron, 18th Fighter Bomber Group. I had a total of 26 missions when I was shot down. I was shot down on my 27th mission, the 31st of May, 1952, Dempsey, that is close to Sinanju. One other thing that I forgot to mention on the germ bombs that we could tell them they were germ bombs from an ordinary bomb was the loading time. The germ bombs were loaded 15 minutes before our mission, while ordinarily our aircraft were loaded 2 hours or more before a mission. Well, after I left this lecture, I couldn't help recall the lecture that the two lectures that I'd received previously, actually, but the one I mainly thought about was Captain Holman's lecture at Camp Stoneman about trying to convince us so hard that we weren't conducting germ warfare and to deny the stories. Well, I was beginning to get an idea of how two-faced some people could be. I mean, even the men that were conducting the war weren't even being told the truth about it. My germ mission took place on the 27th of March, 1952, and it was a VT germ mission. 27th March, yes, 1952. At 05:30, myself, Captain Thomas, that's our flight leader, Captain Bruton, and First Lieutenant Fleur reported to the group briefing room with Captain McLaughlin. We went in the room and he locked the door. He brought out some photographs of some hills south of Sarawan, about 10 miles. These hills, the photographs showed some hills there with a railroad track and some bare spots. Sarawan, yes. About 10 miles, with some bare spots on them. These bare spots are gun positions, he stated. We're going to send you men out on a flag suppressor mission. Well, they have a magnifying glass there that you can look at the photographs. I've often looked at them. I looked at these, and I couldn't see anything that looked like a gun position or a gun. Normally, you can see something that resembles maybe a gun or a gun position on a photograph such as this. As I said before, he stated our mission was a flag suppressor mission. He gives us a takeoff time of 0700 in the morning. We were to take off, climb to 10,000 feet, and proceed to the target. Over the target, dive from 10,000 to 6,000 feet, release our bombs, and return to K-46. And when we returned from the mission, we would naturally report to him, mission accomplished, results unobserved, if the mission was successful. Well, about 6:45, I went out to my airplane. I previously went from the group briefing room over to my squadron operations and put on my flying equipment. As I said, at 6:45, I went out to my airplane to check it over. As I was out there, I noticed the men loading the bombs on it. And they were in the uniforms as he had described them to us, in the white fatigues, the mask, and the gloves. These men took the bombs out of this closed truck and loaded them by hand. Normally, they've got a jack that they jack them up with. These bombs were loaded by hand. I looked at them to see if they were on the hooks. I didn't shake them naturally. And then I got in my airplane and started up. After the debriefing with Captain McLaughlin, we went to our shower room and took a shower. In the shower, I made the remark to Captain Thomas at the time that the shower may clean my body, but my soul will never be clean after such an incident. I mean, after committing such an act. I believe that's easily understandable, and I can never be able to express in words just how much it actually sickened me, and I know the other men reacted the same way. They weren't happy or carefree as they usually are after a mission. I mean, not happy because we killed somebody, but I mean, there's usually the talk after a mission. They talk about it, how they almost got shot down or something like that, but there is no talk. You can tell by their attitude that it was very distasteful to all of them. The next day, we got our blood test from our doctor. We reported it to the doctor at 8 o'clock in the morning.